Blessings. Love you too. Blessings, blessings, blessings. Pray that all is well. Here again for another week. Sorry, we are a few minutes late. We were taking a master class online. We were trying not to have to leave early, but here we are. Just checking back in. We won't be on long tonight. Last week, well, for the last 2 weeks, we've been talking about forgiving ourselves, moving or letting go and moving beyond the shame and the guilt of things that have happened to us in our lifespan, things that we were unable to talk about due to shame or due to, I guess that's the right thing, disciplinary actions that would happen if we spoke about things that were being done, and just being able to forgive ourselves as easily as we forgive others. So that's where we've been for the last 2 weeks. So tonight, last week we ended kind of early, and we're going to end early again tonight. But didn't want to not come on at all, and we've been getting such a good response concerning the ability to forgive ourselves for the things that really devastated us in our lives, and the harm that it has caused us in relationships, in work ethic, family, just different things that it has affected us and those around us because of what has happened in our lives, and because we didn't know how or didn't think anyone would believe, and it's not always sexual. There are other things that happen to you in your lifespan other than sexual acts. Nevertheless, those things caused you to feel shameful, caused you to become withdrawn, caused you to um, underestimate your abilities because it has just bogged you down. So we just come on to continue the conversation. Like I said, it really won't be a long time tonight. That master class was awesome, but it also took a lot. Just taking in all of the information, trying to learn a lot in a little bit of time. But here we are again tonight, just to make sure that we have not caused you to feel like you weren't important. You are very important to us. My bestie and I come on as much as possible. For 3 years, we've been doing it every Wednesday. Um, we may start going to every other week. I'm not sure. Um, but we've been doing it every week for 3 years. And God has kept us, and He has kept you all with us. And we thank you. We don't count that lightly. Thank you for hanging in there with us, showing up with us every week, being there for us when we have to miss a week, and jumping on and, just making sure that we're well. Those of you who inbox us, even when we're not on here, just to make sure that everything is well, and to let us know, how this is affecting your, or helping you get through some things. That is our ultimate goal. The ultimate goal of Loving the Me I See is that we as a people might be able to finally love ourselves, flaws and all, just love every bit of ourselves, so that we could properly let people know what it takes to keep us happy. Most of us, hey Ro, most of us don't know how to tell people to love us because we don't know how to love ourselves. We have spent many years of our lives with the wrong definition of love based on what has happened to us in and out of our homes, and then moving into relationships based on the same kind of love that we're used to, only to find out that they are abusive relationships. And so many of us, when we finally find ourselves free of the different things that have hindered us, whether it be relational, whether it be family, whatever it was that made us feel like we didn't matter, like we were never good enough, like we didn't have any qualities that would cause somebody to want us, whatever that thing was, that thing that we dealt with in silence, and we were dying every bit of the time that it was going on, all of those things that have kept us from thriving. And ultimately we have to accept the fact that it happened. Yes, it did, but keeping us from thriving, we had a part in that. Why? Because we allowed that thing to keep us imprisoned to our own selves, into our own mindsets, uh, always going ahead of the game, criticizing ourselves before anybody else could get to do it. Um, and then, just being quiet about things and dying in silence because you're afraid of, hey, Dom, afraid of what people are going to think, or what people are going to say, or who's going to run back and say this. And, oh, I know who they must be talking about. People who know a lot about nothing, just going and running, sharing half information, which causes most of our issues. But, for many years, guilt has been a part of my life. Guilt and shame have been a part of my life because of things that happen, and things that um, not only the ones that I didn't talk about, but the ones that I did come and try to tell an adult, and I was not believed. And so, therefore, from that point on, anything that happened, I just didn't say anything because I already came to an adult, I already came to a leader, and I told them what was happening. And because the individual said it wasn't so, then that leader, or that adult figure, for lack of better wording, uh, in my eyes, won. I just felt like I was defeated over and over again. And so therefore, I just dealt with it. I just lived through it. I didn't share it with anybody. I didn't talk about it, with anybody. Um, and so here I am as an adult, um, 10 years in a marriage. Never thought that I would ever have the word divorce come out of my mouth. 10 years in a marriage and finding myself a divorced person and learning the lesson, I'm sorry, learning the lesson from uh, that failed marriage, things that could have been done differently, or things that could have went another way had I been properly dealt with things that I was going through in my life. And so for years, carrying around that guilt, carrying around um, that unforgiveness of myself, being so willing to forgive the perpetrators, or the violators, or the abuser, whichever form in which it came, whether it was sexual, whether it was physical, whether it was mental, whether it was emotional. Abuse is abuse, and we tolerate it. We stay in these toxic relationships for fear of not being loved by anybody else, wanting to stay in what we feel that we're comfortable with because we don't think that there's any other way, and we're afraid of the unknown. The average person is usually afraid of the unknown. What's going to happen if I make a total, well, not even a total, because I don't, if you do a 360, you're going to be right back where you were. So, if you just make a turnaround 180 degrees, which says I'm going in the opposite direction of where I was already going, just um, getting to that place where you no longer beat yourself up before somebody else gets that chance to. Um, just dealing with it and finally getting to a place where you forgive yourself. And each week as we've talked through this, and different people have said something offline as well as online, and you never realize how many people have been carrying around that same level of guilt in their lives because they've allowed you to get the impression from the outward appearance that everything is well and nothing's bothering them, and it doesn't phase them, and they can still move on, and I'm still going to do me, and da da da, all the other things that we say to make people believe that we got it all together and that nothing is bothering us, when in fact, we feel so ashamed of staying in anything so long. Toxic relationships, not listening to people because you felt like nobody wanted to see you happy, but in all actuality, they were trying to save you from something that you couldn't see because they were on the outside looking in, and you were on the inside just dealing with it and living with it. And you um, you can remind yourselves of times that you had the opportunity to walk away or even run away and you didn't. What is it that made you stay? And then when you're looking um, now from hindsight, when you're looking at uh, what you stayed in or what you tolerated, you're saying, man, like, how did I even convince myself to do that? Here I am on this side of the wall helping other people get out of these very type of relationships, helping other people feel so good about themselves, and yet I stand on the sideline saying I wish I could feel the same about me, or I wish I had done it the way I'm telling them to do it. How come it's so easy for me to help them through when it was so difficult for me to come through? And guilt and shame and lack of confidence, or being made to feel like your words don't matter, your pain doesn't matter because it was swept under the rug. It was left there under the rug for everybody to trample on every time they came in and out the house. That there's still that thing under the rug that when you look at it, you see the lump in that rug. Why nobody else gets to see that lump? They just walking right on over it, and that's just how a lot of times it has helped it happen in our lives where we felt that those who um, should see, those who should have been able to discern or pick up that something was wrong, or those who we looked up to and found out that it just wasn't what it looked like, and how devastated we were that, for most of us, we defended some of these very offenders. we defended them because we just, thought that it was their way of showing love, or their way, or well, they probably that bad on me because they know I could take it. Not dealing with the fact that, hey, I still have feelings and it hurts. And so there are different things that we continue to go through life, living with the guilt and the shame of it. And, most times when you talk about guilt and shame, the average person does go to all of the sexual offenses, but there are really other ways to hurt somebody than sexually, guys. Mentally, those people who are in narcissistic relationships, and those who are in those people who are obsessive and possessive, those who um, are in those type of situations, whether it be a family, friend, or foe, in those type of relationships where they've done things for you, and when you were tired of what came along with it and decided you wanted to do what was right, how they hold it over your head and threaten to expose you, and then you're saying, even though you're saying to them, go ahead, what does it matter? You're within yourself saying, oh God, how could I? What are they going to say now? It's like you're killing yourself before it even happens. And so you do more harm to yourself than anybody can do, because who's with you all the time? You. And so you find yourself, when you go back into those quiet places and you're not around the crowd, and having to make them think that everything is all right, and having to make them think that you're this strong individual and nothing seems to break you, or nothing seems to move you. That part of you that goes home in that room alone with that pillow, who has a great story to tell because of the tears that have gone into that pillow, because of what you couldn't say, what you were afraid to say, what you didn't know how to say, what you wish you could have said. All of those things that you go through in this guilt and forgiveness process of yourself. We, as I say, week to week, we have no problem. Well, I won't say we have no problem. We tend to forgive others easily. For me, with those that I counsel, I'm always saying, well, you need to forgive them, because you're not going to heaven. If you don't forgive them, you're going to hell. It's just going to be a portion, because the Bible says so. If you have unforgiveness in your heart, heaven won't be your place. And so um, here we are, people always seeing you so strong, and you look like you can do everything, and everybody's coming to you and you helping everybody through their stuff, but they don't see that person who goes home. They don't have the storytelling of the pillow. The pillow has a great story to tell. If the pillow really could talk, there would be a book written about the tears that have fallen into that pillow, because I didn't know how to say, I didn't want to say, I felt ashamed, I didn't know how to forgive myself. Here I am beating myself up at night. I'm going in the room and I'm saying, how could you? Why did you? How long could? What did you think? What was on your mind when the things that you beat yourself up about that nobody else gets a chance to do, because you've already done it to yourself. So by the time you come into the public's eye, you're already beaten up, and you're just waiting to see who's next. Who's going to do it next? Because I know what you must be thinking. And these people have no clue about what happened. They don't even know what you endured, and yet you're giving them the credit of being able to make you feel worse than you already do. And so, for those of us who are in the church and we're sitting under leaderships that tell you, whether you like it or not, hey, you ain't gotta love the person. You ain't gotta. Well, when I say love the person, meaning like you don't have to let them back into that place where they were. If they hurt you, if they devastated you, if they betrayed you, if you for any reason felt hurt by them, yes, you have a responsibility according to the word to forgive them. But it does not say that you have to allow them back into the same room. If you might have been in this portion of my room, and now that you've done what you did and you betrayed me, or you devastated me, or caused harm to me in any way, while I will forgive you and while I will love you with the love of the Lord, that space goes outside of the heart and into the premises of a room. And then when we're not in that room, then you're not welcome into that space. And so I say all the time, you can go to the mall with me, but you won't be sitting at my dinner table, because there are just different things that are harder to bounce back from. It doesn't change the fact that we have to forgive. We can never do what we want when it comes to those of us who love God and say that we want to serve him and we want to be more like him. Forgiveness is our portion. Forgiveness for other people. Forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. Yeah, 20 times later. Forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. Unless they are directly causing you to go away from the Lord, then forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness is your portion. And so we go to church and we hear the preacher preach about repentance and being godly sorry and apologizing and making sure that if you have an alt with your brother that you lay your gift at the altar and go get it right, and telling you that if you go and try to resolve an issue and they don't hear you, come back and get an objective witness and go. And if they don't hear them, then go back and take it to the elders of the church. And then if they won't hear them, then you have a right. They give you all of these ways in the Bible to deal with types of conflict. And so therefore it doesn't leave us with the option of unforgiveness. It just doesn't, because it tells us that we have to go and get it right. Yeah, we can shake the dust off our feet if they don't receive us, but the point is you have to first go and do something to make sure that you can dust your feet, dust the dirt off your feet after you've done what the word has required you to do. And so feeling guilt and shame, and you're in a room full of people and everybody's having conversation, and if in your eyes everybody's looking at you and you're saying to yourself, oh my God, why is everybody looking at me? I wonder if they know, I wonder if they heard. You're going through all of this and they ain't even looking at you. They looking at something behind you, or they're looking in that direction, but they're not looking at you. And guilt and shame will make you feel like that, like no matter where you are in a room full of people, everybody somehow is talking about you, and you want to know how everybody found out and how they, nobody's asking me my part, but then they're not talking about you. They really don't even have you on their mind. If you just want to tell the truth about it, they're looking at something or someone beyond where you are. And because they're looking in your direction, you immediately start tearing yourself apart. And so you're putting more pressure on yourself about a thing that most people still don't know anything about. You end up telling on yourself, really, because you think they already know. So you start talking about something that they're clueless about. Now you really feel bad. And so you're beating yourself up. And so we have to get to a place where we are able to forgive ourselves for the things that we have said and done. And the only way you can forgive yourself is if you do it right. you know some things, let's just tell the truth, because we're always talking about being violated, but some things we did walk right into, some things we did ask for, some things we did want to know how it was going to feel, we did want to know what it was going to do to us if we did this and if we did that. And so let's not forget about the part that we play in certain situations. And so while it is not that case in all things, we never want to be one-sided. That's unbalanced. And so we want to also state that there are some people who are responsible for the situations that happen to them. And yeah, they still have guilt and shame because they took part in it. Like it was something they asked for, they got it. And then after it happened, it was like, oh my God, like I don't even know what I was thinking when I let that happen, or how would I allow myself to find myself there again. And so um, being able to forgive yourself, to remove the guilt of things that you've said or done, places that you've been, is not easy, but it is necessary for your healing. It is necessary for you to be functional in the next portion of your life. It is unfair to bring other people into a relationship with you of any kind, whether it be family, whether it be boyfriend, girlfriend, whether it be husband or wife. It is unfair to them to bring them into a situation and not be able to let them know fully what they're walking into. I think that if more people would just be real about where they are when they are there, relationships might last a lot longer. I'm not saying that they would last forever, but there are some people that just wouldn't walk away from you if you had just said, this is what I have to deal with from the door. I say to those who I speak with when I'm counseling or whatever, show up, be you, Let the real you show up. When you meet somebody, let them meet who you really are. Let them make an informed decision that they want to continue to be your friend, or continue to be your man, or continue to be your woman. That way, you don't add to the load of guilt and shame that you're already bringing from past hurts and past incidents that have gone on in your life. Being able to forgive yourself, it sounds so easy. It sounds so easy, but it really is not. It really is not. There are, you have to get past the things that you're trying to be forgiven for. You have to get beyond blaming yourself for some of these things that have happened to you in toxic relationships. Some of these things that have happened to you when you were being spiritually abused. It happens for staying so long in a relationship, whether it be friendship or um, dating. um you just like, oh my God, like, how stupid was I to stay in it? I mean, a lot of times we beat ourselves up so bad that nobody has to come and say anything because you've already done it. Can't hold your head up. You walking with your face down. How you know you're not getting a bump into somebody coming up the street? Because you don't even realize that you're walking face down. You're just walking forward, going to the next destination. But somebody else is looking at you and they see you with your head down. And you might see them even looking around because they're wondering what you see. Do you see something on the ground that they need to be, most people looking for money, but looking to see if you see something on the ground and they want to beat you to it. But no, you're face down because you don't feel like you're worthy. That's the word. You don't feel like you're worthy of forgiveness. You don't feel like you deserve to be forgiven for some of the things that you found yourself in. Uh, with not realizing that there was somebody that introduced an unhealthy love to you, or there was somebody who made you feel like you were the world until you got with them. And then after they got you, they showed you how much of the world you were not, and you still stayed because you must deserve it. Or nobody, who else is going to want me after this? And who's going to want to be? We have to get to a place where we can truly, with the help of God, finally forgive ourselves of the guilt and shame. And again, I'm going to keep on saying it sounds so easy, but it really is not. Um, how did you deal with that? How did you get to the place where you forgave yourself, not your offender? Because we've done that. We've realized that if ministry is what we're going to do, then unforgiveness can't remain in our hearts. But how did you shared some things in your book, Healed Without a Scar. How did you get to a place of self forgiveness?
I'm not showing my hair, guys. I mean, I'm not showing my face because my hair is not
Nothing
done,
wrong
but
with
I
you.
know that y'all can hear me. Um, I don't even know when I forgave myself, so that's a good question. I know that I did, but I don't know when I forgave myself, because in order to help somebody else seek forgiveness, you first have to forgive yourself for blaming yourself for what was done to you when it wasn't your fault. For a lot of years I did that, and I had to realize that what happened to me wasn't my fault. So you do the blame game for a long time until you can accept the fact that it wasn't your fault, and then the healing could take place and you begin to forgive yourself. I can't tell you when it happened, but I know that it happened.
Yeah, I said in the beginnings of loving the me I see, meaning in our beginning year, I indicated how I was into my 30s, um, well into my 30s, when I first of all, hey daughter, when I
She always here.
first um, decided that I was really beautiful, no matter what others thought. Like for years, I felt so ugly because of the things that I had experienced in my life. And I just felt like so much of my innocence and purity in different magnitudes, not just sexual, had been taken away from me because of the things that I endured in life. And so I was well into my 30s before I thought I was beautiful. And I want to say that I was entering into my 40 um, when I realized, oh my God, I forgave them. Like, and now not only did I forgive them, but is this what it feels like to be free? Like I remember like just talking to myself, probably trying to answer myself, but just like, oh my God, like when did it happen? Because um for so long I couldn't talk about it without breaking down. I couldn't talk about it without the anger resurfacing. I couldn't talk about the things that had happened without feeling defeated or feeling, used up. And then I was able to talk about it, and just like this, not a tear, not saying, let that happen to me. Because, most people say, I wish they would try it now. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is thank you. Thank you, God, for healing, because healing took place so much so that I forgave before I even knew I was forgiven. And I know they say Jesus forgives. I wasn't trying to hear that because I was still feeling the guilt and the shame of a thing. But as I walked even through with you, and I said to you, you'll know when you're not crying anymore,
Right,
and
I
when
just
you're
start
not,
breakdown.
and when you're not trying to figure out a way to get back at that person, you'll know that you're healed. You'll know that uh, uh, at least that you're in the healing process, because the first thing is, oh my God, I really talked about that and didn't cry, you know, and then when you were saying, hey T, um, the tears you see, we say that often. Don't take these tears, for don't assume that they're attached to any kind of pain. This is pure freedom, happiness, worship. Like it's a different
And
type
people
of
will
tear.
do that. They'll mistake your tears. And then if you're not careful, people will prophesy to you off of your tears when that's not what's wrong with me. You prophesying, but I'm not crying because I'm sad. I'm not crying because, but you're prophesying off of what you think. Did you give her the mic, Carl?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. It's crazy. That's the truth.
And so, um, it the guilt and the shame and the unforgiveness that you had towards yourself. Not talking about toward everybody else right now. I'm talking about you not forgiving yourself for staying in anything that was not beneficial to you for a long time. And again, most people automatically go to the sexual aspect, but there is more to abuse than sex.
Yes, it is.
There is more
Yes,
to
it is.
toxicity than sex.
Um, Mental abuse is a form of abuse.
Mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. So many types that nobody seems to move beyond the sex. And I know for the most part, it's because you'd be surprised to find out just how many people went through that type of abuse, um, because we just were never able to talk about it. Or, like I said, in my situation with one incident when it happened, I did tell, but I wasn't believed because they said they didn't do it. So, eventually you get to a place in life where you just, you hear people saying all the time, I just mean God. I mean God all the way. And like that's really it. Like my worship is saving my life. Uh Praise was good because they just taught you to shout on top of everything. Hey Nene, praise is good because you had to shout on top of everything. But worship, relationship, adoration, I'm telling you, sometimes you're in worship and it's everybody else disappears. And it is such a freeing moment to be in the presence of God and feel the love that's being given, feel the chains being broken, the stigmas, all of those things that you've been carrying around, getting dressed up every morning in your pain. Every garment represents a different type of your pain. From your underwear to the outer, you're dressing up pain, and you're putting disappointment on top of it, and abandonment on top of it, and abuse on top of it, and neglect on top of it, and rejection on top of it. And you have all of these layers of clothes.
Wow.
And you don't even realize that you're getting dressed with it every single day. And I've said in the beginning, not all cemeteries have dead people. Some of us are living cemeteries because we're walking around, we're getting up in the morning, we're already hating the day because we're already talking about what negativity is going to happen at certain aspects of the day. And then you still haven't dealt with the hurt, the pain, the devastation, the humiliation. You haven't dealt with any of that. So now you're getting dressed with it. Every piece of clothing is carrying something with it. Every piece of clothing is carrying something with it, even down to your socks. What about the moments when you're putting on your underwear, be it male or female, and it has to touch the aspect that was violated the most? Or what about that t-shirt, that camisole, that wife beater, whatever you put on to cover what's underneath there, and you want it to fit just so tightly? Are you trying to hold on to the pain? Or do you think that by putting that aspect on, it's going to cover so many? I'm telling you, in these last years of my life, there are so many things that are being brought back to memory. And there are so many times that I had to go to God and say, please help me, because I want to be loved. And anybody that know me know I love, and I love hard. And I always say, God, I just want somebody that's going to love me the way I love others. Because I don't love one person one way. I love hard. And I just want to meet somebody who does the same. And so as we were coming into ourselves ministry wise, and then God saw fit to introduce and ordain that meeting of my bestie, it was like we knew each other forever and ever. And like on day one, we were talking like we had just been friends like forever. Pastor Kim's Women's Conference, yes. And September 4th, 2009. Yes. And it was like, wow, like the first time I realized that God heard me. So it was a lot in that. And so when you get to that place where you feel like you can exhale, I can be myself. I can say how I feel. I can have a bad day. And there was somebody who still wanted to love on me in my worst moment. And it allowed a freeing to take place. Then you say, well, now that you really, because again, 10 years in a marriage, first, young, just the first man that said God said, and it was it. Didn't ask nobody for no, counseling, no nothing. Just like y'all said, he that findeth, like I was just justifying everything because I felt like I was going according to the word. He that findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtaineth favor before the Lord. And so here I go. And this person said that. So I quit the boyfriend that I was with. Like I just went head first and just trying to work through finally understanding that, hey, maybe I should have waited, or maybe I should have talked to somebody more. Maybe, because there was people just so glad, so it seemed, for me being able to say, hey, I'm getting married, that nobody took time to say, but this is what you need to know. And so I make it a point, and that is why we're so adamant when we're talking to people now, because, 10 years in a marriage teaches you a lot. Um, and so I never thought that divorce would ever be my portion, because I swore up and down, out till death. I will take your last draws. I'm just till death. And then you find out, hey, some things just can't continue on, and you owe it to yourself and the other person to allow each of you to really find love and find freedom. Um, and so when you get to that place and you learn that lesson, and then now you see others, for me, this is for me, I just want to help people not be where I was for as long as I was.
Right. That's what I said.
Like,
So,
what sense would it be for me to get deliverance and never try to go back and help somebody else and say, hey, I don't want you to stay there as long as I did. So I need you to learn this lesson. Each of my children are different, and they go through things in a different way. Um, um, and just watching them and seeing me, and you'd be like, wow, God, you know, and I just want them to be happy. I just want them to be well. I just want them to experience love to its greatest degree, because I just believe that everybody deserves to be loved, and everybody deserves to be happy. We are not going to always agree. We're not going to always like each other every day, because some days I don't like you. Some days you don't like me. I'm not talking about us. I'm just saying in general. Um, but it doesn't change the fact that I love you. And so when you find that person, or that allows that to go on, it gives you the ability to now investigate yourself. And now you're like, you've been feeling guilty about this, and all you had to do was this. Because it seems harder when you're in it, trying to be free of it. And then when you come out of it, you be like, oh my God, like for real? Like that's all it took? Like, you mean I stayed there all that time and nobody told me that all I had to do was this, or either they told me and I just didn't hear it, and then you start going through all of these things, but being free of the guilt and shame that comes along with the things that you've endured in your life, it is a blessing from the Father Himself. It is a freedom that you should guard and never allow anything or anyone to disrupt it again. Is that easy? Sounds like it, but it's a lot of work. Anything that you're trying to protect cause you to look at different ways every day. So there's no one way, because if that's the case, once somebody breaks through that, it's a done deal. So at some point, you have to take time to investigate you and say, I'm sorry for allowing this, that. You talking to yourself. I'm sorry. Forgive me for staying this long. Forgive me for allowing it to go this long, this far. My kids, like for me, it was like finding out that my kids saw what I was trying to hide from them, and them not being able to do for me the way they wanted to, and having to watch, period, my life. I'm not talking about one aspect of I'm talking about my life, because once my children came, they were my life. And so therefore they saw things that other people will never know. Um, and so I had to learn to forgive myself. And I couldn't have you doing that if I hadn't done the work. So that's why I can say it sounds easy, but honey, the work that you got to put in, because every now and then you have those moments like, you know what, do I really deserve that? Or should I really be doing this? Or did I really? Like now I'm looking at the situation and saying, did I do something? now you're adding more frustration to the puzzle when it's just not, everything that you find in yourself in. So tonight, that's what we wanted to um, share. Um, I'm glad that my bestie was able to say something. I like for her to voice different things. We've shared things with each other, but sometimes it's just good that other people know that, hey, you really can be healed.
Yes.
You really can be healed. A lot of people saying, yeah, I know you saying Jesus is healed. No, I'm telling you that you really, if you do the work, you can be healed. You have to do the work though. It's not for everybody else to do. You have to, it's your happiness. You have to do the work. And it is possible. It is truly possible to no longer have the guilt and the shame of the things that have happened to you. It is truly possible for you to be so free from the things that have taken place that you are now able and equipped to walk somebody else. You should never feel like once you've come through, it's over. You should always understand that after you've come through is when your work starts. Because now you have to figure out who it was for. Because it ain't have nothing to do with you. And so you have to convince somebody else that they don't have to be feeling ashamed that they experienced this, or they stayed in that, or they suffered through this. There's a freedom that is waiting for you, but you have to want it. There's a happiness that is waiting for you, but you have to want it. You can't make somebody else be your happiness. I'm telling you, you're going to die a very lonely person. Because living for somebody else to make you happy is causing your own premature defeat. Because you're expecting them, their version of what they think will make you happy. Because you haven't investigated yourself enough to find out what makes you happy. So, how can you convince somebody, or how can you expect someone to love you and you have not yet found out what you love about you? You don't even know what you won't expect or what you won't accept because you've never investigated you. You spent more time being there for others. You spent more time trying to find out what you could do differently to make somebody else happy. You spent more time and money on making sure that somebody else felt loved and appreciated. And now that everybody has gotten their deliverance and gotten their freedom, you went in your room, closed the door, and found out it's really just me right now. So what I'm gonna do with me? So I had to reintroduce myself. I had to reintroduce myself to myself and let me know who I was, how I feel, what I like, what I won't tolerate. I had to really have a conversation with me about me. About me. And they be like, oh, because when somebody come my way, I start asking questions right off the bat. And they be like, you gonna scare them away if then they wasn't coming. Because you ought to want to know. You ought to want to know. So if you don't hear anything else we say tonight, be free. Yes, just started staring at the four walls for real. Tunisia. Started staring at the four walls. I'm telling you, there was the biggest, I want to say point of freedom. Well, maybe once I finish it, you'll say yes or no. The biggest thing for me was because anybody who knows me knows that I can go in my room and be very happy.
Happy.
Very content. Just who I am. Everything I need is in there. Microwave, refrigerator, everything is just there. Television, everything. I mean, literally, even when I'm not naming, it's in there. And there was one time in our beginnings of our growing friendship that being in my room was my safe place. It was my ability to take myself out of situations. It was my time when I spent in there really beating myself up, reminding myself of how worthless. Like it was bad. It was bad. It was not just a place where I went and everything was going to be well. I went in that room and would think about things that I did, things that were done to me, how I tried to take my life before. Like, should you do it again? I'm telling you, it was a very bad time at first when I was going into my room. And then as healing started to take place and uh, being emotionally available to myself, understanding that I didn't have to be perfect for or to anybody else other than God. Um, and then um, just really getting to know God. Like I was in church all my life, but yeah, I was just going. But when I got to the place of worship, when I got to the place of relationship, it started a whole healing process for me. It was painful, but yet a healing, because I had to deal with the rage and the anger and the different things that came along with being healed. And then um, as our friendship began to grow, um, going to my room wasn't as bad anymore because I had something good to reflect back on, or I had a reason to want to be ready for the next day. Finally found someone who accepted me for who I was, and I could be my um self, my true self, and they be all right. And likewise, they were able to be. It just felt really good, and so therefore, you were looking forward to that next time, and the friendship just grew and grew and grew, and here we are today. And now, when I go in my room, everybody know. I don't care who it is, whether the church be over, whether the family be over. Nobody thinks I'm being anti. Nobody feel because they know that that's my safe place. If it's a lot of people in the room, that's just something I don't do. I don't socialize very long because I don't want to cross lines and I don't want anybody to ever feel like they could disrespect me. So therefore I make myself visible and tangible for a little while, and then it's time uh to go into the room and separate myself. But I'm coloring, or I'm doing puzzles, or I'm doing something, and now being in therapy, yes, God, um, it's a good place, you know. Nobody's afraid to knock on the door, you know, it, or even come in, knock on and come in. Sometimes they knock and wait for me to open. Sometimes they knock and they open. But just knowing that the darkness is gone. The darkness is gone. I was finally, finally able to forgive myself. Finally, you know, uh, my bestie made me start changing colors and clothes because I wore black forever and ever, and still want to wear it. But color change, just the least little things that people overlook, did a whole lot. It meant somebody was paying attention, and it felt good to be on the receiving end for once. Yes, my kids have loved me. Whew, yes, my kids were my life. Unfortunately, I cost them some of their childhood because they were my life. They were just my everything, you know. And so uh, to be at this place now, mixed feelings because of health, but other than that, feeling real good, and grateful. When you're in a room by yourself, that's when a lot of thoughts start playing into your mind. It really is. It really is. And so when I go in the room, if it's just us home and I go in the room, after a while, my bestie will hit me up and say, "You good?" She won't just text me, like the average person. She FaceTime me so she can look at me and see if I'm okay and make sure that I'm in the room for the right reasons. And everybody needs that somebody that will do that, that will um, be able to handle your story. That's very vital, to have somebody in your life who can handle your story, because somebody who can't handle your story is going to go run their mouth because they need to just get it off of them. They just need to get it out. It was too much for them to take in. But when you get somebody who can handle your story, and they watch and they observe. I tell people all the time, I observe what I love, and what I love I observe. And I can tell when something's off. I can tell when something's wrong. I can tell when something is being done for a different reason other than what it usually is. And likewise, it is being done for me. And so, um, being able to be whole. My goal is to become whole. Should I, even though they saying it's gonna happen, I question that because me and God had a conversation. But should I remarry at this point, I will be a whole person. I won't be looking for anything. I wouldn't be looking for anybody to make up the difference of something. I just wouldn't, because I'm at peace with who I am right now, and I'm whole. And I want that person to come whole. I don't want them to bring me anything else other than what's supposed to be with us. That way, we are both whole people trying to come together. That is where the compromise comes in, not when we're half and half, because there's no struggle in making two halves a whole. It is two whole people having to learn how to compromise one with the other, knowing to learn when you can and can't beat a fight, knowing what's worth a fight, knowing what. And when I say fight, I'm not talking about physical, but I mean picking and choosing, as you say, my mother said, picking and choosing your arguments, pick and choose your battles. Some things are just not worth, putting yourself through the agony, you know. Um, so just being at a place where I don't have to just be questioning myself anymore, and I wish that it would be that way for all of those that come in contact with us. Our desire is that you learn how to love you. My baby boy on here. Look at that. Being strong is easy. Staying strong is a task. Yes, it is. A lot of people can be strong in the moment, but no more than that. For real, baby boy. For real. For real, for real. And I just, all of my children are strong in their own way. They don't always recognize it, but they are. As I say to anybody, that I talk to, the fact that you're alive means that you're stronger than you think, because you didn't allow it to take you down. You didn't allow it to cause you to, freak out. You're here and you're in it for the moment. You're in it. You're present. And so therefore you have a strength that you didn't even know. You're still here. So you are talking about it. You're alive and well, which means that you made it through another day.
You made it.
Another day. So you're stronger today than you were yesterday. Because yesterday is already past. And you're ready for whatever today has to bring. I'm telling you, there was a saying that I had the church saying, I'm going to go back to it. Today is going to be an awesome day just because of who I am and what I have to offer it. That's a powerful statement. And it's a real statement. And I would even submit to you, start using it for yourself. Every day and everything that you are part of is better because you're in it. And as baby boy said, you're just strong for the moment. And sometimes that's a reality. I know it was for me. It's easy for me to be strength for everybody else. It's easy for me to defend and fight for everybody else. And then when it's all said and done, I'm wondering, I'm going in my room, or I'm going to my car, or I'm going in my office and saying, well, man, who's going to do that for me? Or I wonder if I'm even worth that kind of energy. So it's a real place. Um, my besties get may have some last words, and we're gonna call it a night. Um, but being able to get past the guilt, and depending on what you're involved in, I will say this for any couple, whether you're married or not. If you forgive, then forgive. Nobody's saying you have to forget, but it shouldn't be a part of every argument. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You forgive, and the Bible says 70 times 7. So as frustrating as you are and as agitated as you might be, forgiveness is still the way. And if you're going to, and we as besties say it to each other all the time. I thought you said you forgave me. Why are we still here? And it's a real place, because if you've forgiven, it shouldn't even be a reference point anymore, because you said you forgave me. So can we just take care of what's like right here, right now? If we were very present in our disagreements, in our and passionate discussions, however, I think that we would get more progress, because we're not trying to work on everything from yesterday before we get to today. Right now, we're dealing with today. Let's talk about today. And so, forgive yourself. Remove the guilt. It's not to say that you weren't guilty. Just free yourself. God forgave you. And so you have to learn how to forgive yourself. And so does that significant other, whether it be boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, bestie, whatever. It takes two, because there is not one problem that exists one way. I've been saying it. I believe it. I teach it. I speak it. Even in counseling, there is no problem that exists one way. Either you are part of the reason why that problem exists, or you see the problem and you just don't feel like dealing with it because you don't want to deal with the frustration that comes along with it. So you just allow it to be. So either way, you're an active participant in the problem. So we want to learn how to forgive. Just as quick as we forgive others, we need to be that quick to forgive ourselves. It's not easy. It really isn't. But it is necessary. It is necessary. So with that being said, my bestie's going to have last words, and we are going to call it a night. What is he saying? I've learned that the process to healing in any form starts with you. So as it pertains to your growth, it can be one day or day one. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Exactly. It all, no matter what type of healing you need, is going to have to start with you. You either got to be open, you got to be ready to release,
Vulnerable.
you got to become vulnerable to what's next and move forward. Go ahead, bestie.
Well, I think Apostle has said it all. We have said enough. Just learn that forgiveness is important. Without forgiveness, you can't move forward in any aspect of your life. And forgive you. It's okay to say, I'm unsure. It's okay to say, I don't know why I feel like this. It's okay to say, I'm not even sure if I forgave myself. But one thing we must first do admit that there is a problem. I'm tired, y'all. My words start to run together. I taught on the emotions, and that was one of the first things we had to do, was admit. And once you admit, everything else will fall in line. So have a good night, guys. I'm getting ready to eat. We get ready to eat. And we will see you next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. And remember, forgive yourself. That's one of the hardest things. Forgive yourself as easy as you forgive someone else. Please learn to forgive yourself for the guilt and the shame of your past. Keep moving. Keep growing. We believe in you. and you've got what it takes. The fact that you're here today says that you're stronger than you think. Love you guys. See you next week. All things well and God say the same. We will see you next week.